Well, welcome everyone to the spring webinar series at Advancing Employment. We're glad you could join us. We have a great session today. I think you're in for a treat. Just some housekeeping stuff. Advancing Employment is funded by the Georgia Council on Developmental Disabilities. And through that funding, we work with provider agencies. And one of those organizations is on the webinar today. We have a very active community of practice that Joseph Harrison, who's on, Joseph, give a little wave there, manages that, as well as Dr. Rackensberger and our consultant, Amy Price. This would be the first webinar in the series, and we'll have several others that we'll be releasing. To that point, you can look at the advancingemployment.com website and see all of our wonderful webinars that are archived there. And there's lots to choose from. So without any further ado, I'd like to turn it over to our guests. And we'll start first with Bertus from Easter Seals. So tell us who you are and what you do.
Hi, I'm Bertus Dudley. I'm a vocational specialist here, / job coach. And I've been doing this about 22 years.
Wow. And how do you know these two lovely women? How did you get to know them?
Kathy Tilley. I met Kathy Tilley when I started at Easter Seals 5 years ago.
Okay.
Kathy was working in our pre-vocational workshop. And for what I understood, that Kathy actually had been working in the workshop for almost 30 years, if I'm not mistaken. And I feel that if she can come to the workshop every day and work, she can go into competitive employment. So I spoke with Kathy and her mom, and she decided she wanted to go into competitive employment. And we actually got her hired at the Albany area YMCA. And she's been there ever since September of 2022.
Woo! Now, let's hear from Ruth and Kathy. Tell us a little bit about yourselves.
Okay. I'm Ruth and this is Kathy. Here, so go ahead.
Okay. My name is Kathy Tilley. I live in Albany, Georgia. I like going to movies and shop for shoes or clothes. I love talking with the phone with Josh, my boyfriend, with my other friends. I like going on vacations, eat out most of the time. I like working.
Okay, and where are you from?
Okay.
Before we moved to Albany. Where'd you live?
Oh, I live in Pompano Beach, Florida.
Woo! That sounds nice.
Okay, and what did you do down there?
Okay, I play in the sun, play outside. I just said that.
Okay.
Spend time with my grandma until she passed away. I miss my aunts, uncles, cousins, my friends in Florida. At 17, I moved to Albany, Georgia. I went to Albany High School.
Okay. So
let's get back to it. Kathy, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay.
While I'm still in high school, I started working at Easter Seals 2.5 hours a day. I work in their in-house program. After I graduated, I work at 30 hours a week. We will pay by the number of pieces. No, I did not make much money.
Okay.
I'm trying. I tried work at Goodwill, the house program. I worked 30 hours and I was paid 54 cents. I went back to Easter Seals. At Easter Seals, I did make different things. I made small boxes, put items in boxes, fold, and peanut bags. I made bags, put stickers on the books, and put the books in the boxes. I also did lip balms and shower drops.
Okay. And how did you get along with everybody you work with?
I worked at.
How'd you get along with everybody you
Did you like the people you work with at Easter Seals, Kathy?
Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
What did you enjoy most about Easter Seals?
My supervisors, like you guys.
Well, thank you. But basically, the contract that you was working was a protocol contract where we had different vendors, and you packed like sour drops, and you did we had the M&M Mars contract where you did the bag.
Oh yeah. We did pads too, I think.
Mm-hmm. And you did sanitary napkins that you actually was packed for the vending machines, correct?
I worked at Easter Seals over 30 years. I love my supervisors and had many good friends. We stopped working in 2020 when the COVID started. I stayed home for 2 years. I was not told I could not go back to work. Easter Seals.
Okay, the program that paid Kathy at that time after the 2 years actually stopped. So she was out of a job and had no place to go. Then we were contacted by.
Oh, okay. I was contacted by Bernice Stately, a
vocational specialist.
I'm your vocational specialist.
Oh yeah.
There you go, from Easter Seals.
And I'm your job coach.
Tell her what you learned from Bernice.
I learned about working, how to do resumes and applications. Bernice asked what type of job I want.
Okay.
So it sounds like when the COVID hit, this is Doug, it really changed your lives, like for all of us, right? And that can be kind of scary, but you had good support at Easter Seals, Kathy, to think through where you might want to work. And you just ended with, I think, a great question. And that was Vertus asking you where you would like to work, where you would fit in and do your very best. So let's talk about that some more.
Okay, well, we went and we met with her, and she told me and explained to me the working out in the public. And I was a little fearful at first because, of course, you want the best things for your daughter. And I didn't know how safe it was, where Vernice really, I guess, uplifted my thoughts on that. She explained how she would be out there in the beginning, how she would train her, how she would take her through that entire process of getting the job outside, which was really lifted my major concerns. Then she told us that after a period of time, after all of her training on how to fill out applications, resumes, and how to conduct herself during an interview, Kathy got ready to have an interview at YMCA.
Wow. That is so cool, you guys. I love it.
Now.
Okay, no, I didn't, so go ahead.
She got me wait a minute. she got me a job interview at YMCA. I got a job. I worked 12 hours a week and paid $8 an hour.
Woo.
Okay.
At the job, at the YMCA, I did janitor and housekeeping. I washed windows and cleaning the pool windows. I take out the trash and wipe the tables and sweep the floor. I also cleaned the bathrooms at YMCA Smart Park 3 times a week.
Okay. And when you went to, what happened when you went to the YMCA? What was some of the good stuff about it?
Okay. I make a lot of money. I had many new friends. I try to make my boss happy.
I thought that was real. These were things that I questioned her about. And I was very impressed that she added on her own the fact that she wanted to make her bosses happy.
Yeah, yeah.
And my supervisors.
And her supervisors.
And I think, Kathy and Ruth, that is one of those things that any employer in Georgia would love to hear, right?
I would think so.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that, I don't think people hear that all the time. And that's what we would consider someone who's really dedicated to their job and to their community. Working, sharing your talents, doing a job. You can look yourself in the mirror at the end of the day and know that you put in a good work. What can you talk a little more about just coworkers and friendships and that kind of thing?
Talk about your natural supports that we help set up at the YMCA. You have people that when I started to fade away, then we had people in place that would help you if you needed assistance. Who are those people? Talk about those people
who helped you after Bernice went out. Oh, Miss Wall.
Who is your supervisor? Who is your supervisor that just left? Miss who?
Oh, Shirley.
Yes. And so Miss Shirley just left, and then we
made it 8 years.
Yeah, she had been there 8 years, and now she made sure that you had someone else as a natural support there also. So tell me about that natural support. We talked about it last week.
Me?
No.
Oh,
who else are you working with?
Okay. Her sister, Carla, Ike, EJ, Tanya. What else?
So she has lots of actual support there at the YMCA. People that do the things that Kathy's not capable of doing, because Kathy is a very small person. She's about the size of a 10 to 12-year-old in height.
And Sam. I got 2 Sams there.
But Kathy really enjoyed working there. Every night she would come home and tell us things about Miss Shirley, that she had a grandbaby, and when one of her daughters went to the hospital. So I know that the working relationship there became not just a working situation, but became personal and seemed to care about each other, which is a nice working relationship.
Yeah, Ruth, I think that's really important for, and I think, Ruth, when we met, I mentioned I have a sister with disabilities and my mom's concerns for her that, as you have said so perfectly, we all have those concerns and you want the best. But knowing that Kathy had good support at a job outside of the Easter Seals program in the community, as a parent, how important was that to you? I mean, and what advice would you give other parents who have those concerns?
Well, I would think that if you're a parent of a handicapped person, you have concerns for any child. But when you have a handicapped child, your concerns become more. You worry about them being taken advantage of as far as using them, teasing them, picking on them, bullying them. And with the support she's gotten at the YMCA, she hasn't complained about anything along those lines. Everybody has been there, and they, from the top management all the way down, really like her. And, you know, she walks in, everybody goes, oh, hi, Kathy, how's your day? So it's a real nice environment, which surprised me because for years I was so hesitant to the fact that things would not be that way, that it has really opened me up to the fact that, yes, they can work out there and not be picked on and not be bullied. And I think this has made Kathy very happy that she's got a job.
Well said, Ruth. So well said. I think that will really help folks who are viewing this webinar who have some of those same concerns. Verda, anything you want to add to that? Just to support at the job site?
The Albany Area YMCA is an excellent job site and support partnering with Easter Seals and other agencies in order to put our individuals to work. And I tell people all the time, what you need to do is always sell the abilities. Do your very best and make sure that you give them the proper support in transitioning into the community so that they can be successful. Because Kathy knows that I'm just a phone call away, I'm just a text away, even if I'm working or not working. And everyone knows Vertus Dudley, and they know that if you mess with one of those individuals of mine, I'm coming after you.
we don't doubt
my
that.
job there too.
We don't doubt that for a second. Yeah.
But I am so proud of Kathy. I tell people all the time that I'm just like Dr. Rackensberger, that everyone can work and they need to be in the community, because when you isolate people, then guess what? You're setting up barriers for them. We're here to break down barriers, not to put barriers up for our individuals that we serve.
Well, one of the important things that Kathy has grown up with is the fact that both my husband, Bob, and myself worked. And we've always, you know, stated, hey, we got to make a living. And this is an idea that transferred over to Kathy. And, you know, Kathy will come in and say, hey, Dad, it's time for me to go to work. I got to make a living. So with that aspect, it really was inlaid in her. She always went to work. I don't think she was sick but a few days. And that would be something that she couldn't, you know, that was something that she couldn't control. But boy, if it was staying at home or being at work, it was work every single time. Mm-hmm. And she's still that way.
I think that's such an excellent point, y'all, because I think sometimes we just don't have great expectations for people working.
That's true.
And I think by, you know, as a family, Ruth, really, you and Bob really setting that out for Kathy. It's a great example. It's a great expectation. And I'm certain that has helped Kathy, you contribute to your employer and to really do your very best there. We've kind of touched on this, but I'd like to do it just a bit more, Vertus. So we know that COVID impacted all of the, you know, the employment programs across the country, obviously the world really, but so you all had to make adjustments like anyone, but am I correct in understanding, Vertus, that you all at Easter Seals decided to quit paying subminimum wages for the folks who are in the sheltered workshop?
Well, Easter Seals did that shortly before that. They started paying really good wages
Yeah.
For the amount of time. I'm not sure if they were paid minimum or even above, but Kathy was coming home with some really great paychecks.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I mean, that exceeded like $200 or
Yeah.
more.
Yeah.
And so now with being out of work for 2 years and her sitting at home actually driving me crazy, and her brothers and sisters and her father, because she's bored, and she would resort to calling people and texting them, as Vernice knows, multiple times a day. Now she goes to work, and when she comes home, it's sort of nice. She's a little tired.
Aren't we all, right?
And
Yeah.
you know, so having the COVID did definitely interfere. And like I said earlier, it did cancel her particular work programming because the funds was no longer available for her to go back to work.
Yeah.
And 2 years is a long time to be at home. And another good thing is that she now, this is her last year to accumulate Social Security. She had to work for 10 years. Prior to that, she didn't make enough money to actually qualify. So now she's back working and she'll be able to qualify to get Social Security later on in life.
Yes. Yes. She's paying because, right? You're paying into it, Kathy. You're paying into Social Security. So you should get some of that back. That's an excellent point, Ruth. Really, really well said. I sense we've kind of gotten through our questions, but I wanted to return to just kind of some of this advice. And so we'll start with Ruth, Kathy, then we'll go to you, and then Vertus to you, okay? So if you were meeting with a family in Georgia or maybe elsewhere, because as you all know, this focus on jobs in the community is something that's not just happening in Georgia, but all over. But let's say you met Ruth, another mom who was really concerned. And we touched on it earlier, but I'd love you to give us some advice for that mom. You know, what are some steps that parent could take to feel more comfortable with their adult child leaving a program and working in the community?
Well, I would have to say every parent knows their child best. And I was enlightened to find out there really was some things I really didn't know about Kathy. And that was her desire to actually work out and meet people. So the best advice I could give is get yourself a fantastic vocational specialist, which we did, Vernice, and take each step and go from there, because the training that Kathy got on how to fill out applications, how to present herself, what a good employee does, what they do not do. And Vernice went over all these good aspects that she had, like being at work all the time, doing what she's told or what she's been asked to do and following through with that. Parents have a tendency to don't think their child is capable of doing some of the stuff they're not even aware of. And I really was impressed when Vernice presented each of those aspects to me. I really was surprised because she did lay out, Kathy is a good worker. She comes every day. In fact, she's a little boss. She was telling everybody else what they needed to do. So I would say get yourself a great vocational specialist and take step by step and ensure yourself that you feel comfortable. If there is anything that you do not feel comfortable with, discuss it with them before. And I actually went, I didn't go in for Kathy's interview, but Bernice went with her. And I did go to her orientation. That made me feel a whole lot better after going and understanding the aspects of the job. But if you have a good layout of what the job is and you feel secure that your child is secure, then everything's going to work out really well.
Thank you so much, Ruth. Kathy.
Yes, sir.
What advice would you give somebody, maybe who's still at the Easter Seals program or another program like that, about going to work in the community? What would be your advice to them?
What would you tell, like, say, for Tracy at work, who's at home now? What would you tell her about working outside in the community?
Oh, okay. Tracy, you probably like go out with like different places. You had to fill out like applications, resumes. You had to make lots of money, like what I did.
So you like the money part, you like the friends part, and your advice, it sounds like, Kathy, is that it's worth the risk, that it's okay to do because, as your mother has said so well, you're safe, you're respected, you're earning a good income. Thank you, Kathy. Vertus.
Yes.
What advice would you give, in addition to what Ruth and Kathy have said about a family making that decision to leave a day program or a sheltered workshop? What would be your advice?
My favorite thing is, Kathy will tell you she saw it. The Little Red Engine That Could is my favorite. It's because of the fact is the Little Red Engine, they didn't think he could do it, but you can do anything that you put your mind to. And basically, in transition in the community from a shelter workshop, what I would do, I would meet with that person one-on-one. And it's our job as VSs to train and teach that individual what to expect once they enter the community. And if basically we put them through the DBHDD, or we put them through Georgia Vocational Rehabilitation Services, we teach them job readiness skills, we pair them up with a job coach, and a job coach will help that smooth transition into the community.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, I'd like to.
And also, additional with Kathy, also, we actually teamed up with Advancing Employment, and we actually did the resume part. Remember, we met and we did the visual resume?
Yes.
And we actually used a visual resume with Kathy in order transitioning her in the community. Because, like I tell people all the time, you need to sell the abilities.
Right.
That's my thing. When I go speak with an employer, I meet with an employer, and I basically go and we do a lot of informational interviews. We do like a mini discovery. And with the mini discovery, it tells me the abilities that I need to know to make sure that we pair that person in the right place. We got to have the right fit.
Exactly.
And
Yep. And here at Easter Seals,
I'm with the supported employment team. And supported employment, we basically make sure that while they're in the workshop, they are actually receiving job readiness skills here, but we're not paying sub-minimum wages anymore. They actually make competitive wages here.
Thank you, Vertus. And Ruth, I think you were going to add something in terms of advice, I think.
Well, I have been sort of not handicapped, but unable to function as my normal since November. And one of the things that I did not realize, Social Security has gotten very, very sneaky and checking accounts.
Oh, no.
And with Kathy's check going straight into the bank, little did I pay attention to her account. And I haven't been able to take her as many places to do her shopping or for some extra foods that she likes or needs. And her account went over $2,000.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is an absolute no-no. So I politely got this letter from them saying that now they're taking 10% of it out of her pay because she did go over. So the one thing I'd really like to give advice on is make sure that your child does not go over $2,000 any month. Let them spend their money.
I love it, Ruth. And Ruth, your timing here is perfect. And I won't go into it much here. We'll say to our viewers of this webinar that there's some exciting stuff happening with that very issue around benefits, right? SSI, SSDI, yes, and the resource limit that you're talking about. And there's something called Disability Benefits 101. You can look that up at db101.org. And to Ruth's advice to families soon here in Georgia, that DB 101 will be up and running for Georgia families, job seekers, vocational specialists, VR counselors, to really sit down and go through these calculators that'll show you what happens to your check. It tells you what you need to do about your resource limit that Ruth has brought up. So I'm so glad that you brought that up, because I think for so many people, and certainly this has been the experience in my family, people will have a bad experience with Social Security as they're working, and then they'll drop out instead of doing what you're doing, which is really giving people advice about how to handle that. So stay tuned for that part for families as well. Well, I want to thank Ruth and Kathy and Virtus for spending time with us today. I hope you all three of you know these wonderful, encouraging, positive women. I hope you know you've made a difference, not only Kathy in your life, but for folks viewing this. So thank you very much for your time. I'm Doug Crandall. Thank you. Thank you. With Advancing Employment, I'm joined here by Joseph Harrison and Dr. Tracy Rackensberger. If you need anything, even outside of the webinars, you can hit advancingemployment.com to see our policy imperatives, what we'll be doing for October's National Disability Employment Awareness Month in 2023. You can sign up for the community of practice there and get lots of free resources from white papers to these webinars. Thank you very, very much. And we'll see you on the next webinar.